The Cerebral Entertainment Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to yet another riveting edition of the Cerebral Entertainment Podcast. I am James, and with me as always is my good friend Colt.
I'm here.
And I'm glad you are.
Me too, dude.
Especially since it's your studio, but also it's just good to sit here and discuss all things that are happening in life right now with you.
Uh-huh.
And to share that, to disseminate with the CEP universe out there. Mm-hmm. The network of people that actually listen to our show.
Yeah.
It's nice to have you all out there. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Because even if you weren't here, we'd still probably do it because we're dumb, but...
We would. We'd still have fun doing it, though.
Absolutely.
It's just nice to know that there are a couple listeners out there, so that's fun.
And it just makes you feel, I don't know, cool to have headphones on and have a mixer in front of you and microphones and all that good stuff, I guess.
I don't disagree at all. And I also think that we've got all of this stuff in our heads that we just, if we don't get it out, then I don't know, I might explode.
So it's like therapy is what you're saying?
It is a lot like therapy.
Gotcha.
Yes, it is a joint effort in keeping you and myself sane in this tumultuous and crazy world that we live in, especially nowadays.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that. But first, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in your life. Mm-hmm. Marshall now is how old?
He will be a month old on Tuesday.
A month old. That's
2 days from now.
Crazy.
And I was just telling my wife yesterday, I was like, you know, they say that time goes by fast. And I don't know that I have the right to say that time goes by fast because he's only a month old. You know, because you have people who are like, oh, my kid just turned 18 and in a blink of an eye. Like they were just a baby yesterday, you know, that kind of thing. But still, it's weird, and you know, we're kind of on opposite. Me and my wife are on opposite schedules right now because she kind of takes over the night shift and I take over the day shift with him and stuff. And by the time that I wake up in the morning and take over, and then she goes to sleep, you know, and I feed him and all that good stuff, and he eats every 2 to 3 hours. So it's like it just seems like I'm just constantly feeding him. Like it's not like he doesn't stop eating.
Yes.
It's just one big bottle all the time. You know, it's weird, but time goes by really fast. It's just like in an instant. By the time that she goes to sleep and then wakes back up, it's like, it just feels like it's 8 o'clock at night already again. Like the day's gone, you know? So, you know, I've got 2 more days before I got to go back to work after being off of work for a month. So I got that to look forward to. It's got that little bit of anxiety feeling, you know, that people get pretty much every weekend, I think. I don't know. What do they call that? It's like a Sunday thing. They say like mid-afternoon on Sunday, you get something that's like I don't know, like in the pit of your stomach. It's like an anxiety that you got to go back to work the next day.
I don't know.
Do you ever get that?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't, not anymore.
Okay.
Because this is a spiderweb subject, but it's your fault because you brought it up.
You're welcome.
The thing is, I get on to people that I work with. I shouldn't say get on to them. I try to give them some perspective is what I mean. Because the old song, you know, everybody's working for the weekend. You remember that old song? Crappy song. No offense, but it's song's not really. I don't care either way, but I don't care for the song. But I don't live my life just to get to those 2 days that I have.
Yeah.
And enjoy those. And so I'm fortunate, though. I have a job that I'm actually driven to. I'm passionate about what I do. That helps a lot, you know. And so for people who aren't as fortunate as me to have a job that they really, really enjoy doing, it must be a lot more difficult. But I try to redirect folks to not just live for those 2 days, man, because you got to make your whole week.
Right.
That, you know, so I don't have that anxiety.
Gotcha.
And once again, it kind of goes back to the last discussion that we had. If you don't have a job where you can feel that way, where you can do that, yeah, it might be worth, you know, either looking into it or taking a little more time to reflect on what you do have and really be grateful for that and try to have a fresh perspective, because there's that work-life balance. You know, your job affords you, to pay your bills, but also if you're doing it, you know, right, and if you're fortunate enough, then you have a job where you can go in and you get the job done and enjoy the rest of your life without that job like breaking you down or causing you a lot of stress or anything like that. So either find you another job where you don't feel like you have to have that pit in your stomach on Sunday afternoon, or take fresh perspective, you know. And so, spiderweb over. Okay, that was just my little 2 cents about that. But
Well, it's just like, even people who enjoy their job, that time off is still something you cherish,
True.
right?
It is.
Whether you have kids at home that you want to be with, or, whether you just want to go home and mow the yard, that's your relaxing time or whatever, it just like the high tension from work or anything like that just kind of lowers, like midday Friday, you're like, all right, we're almost here.
Right.
Tomorrow's Saturday. Heck yeah. And then Saturday, it's like ease. There's not, you got the whole day. You don't have to worry about going to work the next day. And then you get up Sunday morning and you're comfortable. And all of a sudden you get into like the afternoon. You're like, all right, well, now it's time to start getting back in the swing of things. And, you have 2 kids that are in school, so you not only have the work thing, but you got to get kids ready to go back to school the next day and all that good stuff too. So it's, I don't know that it's a bad anxiety. It's just like you just know, the next work week's coming. And especially if you're in a job where you don't necessarily know like how things, like you don't do factory work, you do something where you're fighting fires all the time, or, you're just working to, just to try to make things easier.
Yeah.
And you don't know from day to day what's going to happen. I can see how anxiety would be a little higher.
I guess so. I get that though. During vacation, it's like right before the vacation, I'm stoked. I'm so happy. I'm pumped. But come the second to the last day, it always happens the second to the last day. I get this conscious feeling, or this, of course it starts with a thought, but I get this awareness that vacation's almost over. It's almost over, and I don't want to let it like destroy my enjoyment for the rest of the time. But it's this dark cloud. It's like, man, I don't want this to end, and I want to work on that too, on that not being a thing. Because vacation's good, but I shouldn't like not want to just live for vacation either. Just like I don't want to live for Saturday and Sunday.
That's what I hate. Like, me and my wife enjoy flying. Like if we're going to go on vacation somewhere that's a decent, decently far away, I would rather fly than drive. Right now, of course, that situation has changed a little bit, but I would rather fly than drive any day. And the main reason why is because you get more time vacationing when you fly.
Yeah.
If not, you're okay. You say, I'm going to take off Monday through Sunday. All right. Well, Monday is driving. And if you're going somewhere where you have to stay overnight, then maybe Monday and the beginning of Tuesday is driving. And then you're vacationing, and then the day before you got to leave, all you're thinking about all day long is, well, we got to get stuff packed, we got to get stuff ready to leave tomorrow, and then that whole day is driving back home, and then you're right back to work again.
Yeah.
I hate that feeling so much. I mean, I know you can still get the anxiety from flying because you got to go through, all the stuff it takes to get through to fly. But I would so much rather fly anywhere than drive.
The TSA has to check your packages. Yeah. I'm an anxious flyer anyway, but I totally agree with your point. I usually don't fly, especially with kids, because that's, especially with my son, that would be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
I think he would actually like it, but he doesn't stay still for very long.
Well, I had an idea. I actually got it from a good friend of ours. So I have some friends of mine that are getting married in Florida in January. And I had the idea because of a friend of mine just did it. They went to Kansas City, him and his wife and their baby went to Kansas City. So they had his parents come along with them. They got an Airbnb. They actually went to the Beartooth concert in Kansas City. So his parents went with them. They stayed in Airbnb. His parents stayed and watched their son, and then they went to the concert and came back. It's like, dude, that is a great idea. You don't have to, your baby's still there. You don't have to worry about being worried all the whole time you're gone that he's, that anything bad could be going wrong or anything. So I think might do the same thing with him in Florida. We might just go ahead and drive down there, get an Airbnb on the beach, and, stay a couple extra days. So like maybe drive down, then have a day before the wedding to hang out on the beach and do whatever we want, then do the wedding, and then have another day to just do whatever we want, and then drive back the next day.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool to have a small vacation to do that. And, your kid's there. You're not like, 16 hours away from them or anything like that. I really like that idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I when I was talking about Airbnbs with my buddy that's down there, he was like, well, why don't you guys just fly down there? And I was like, I don't want to be that guy with a crying baby on the plane. I mean, it may only be a 3-hour flight, But unless you can plan that perfectly in between his feedings and his poopings and all that kind of stuff, he's going to cry at some point, and I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, and he's going to need to feed and he's going to poop because you got to also calculate the time in the airport as well. You know, so
Yeah.
and that's more of a chaotic time. Like at least on the plane, you're just sitting there for a little bit. The airport, ugh, I hate airports.
On top of that is I'm not we are not in position in a society right now for me to take my baby on a plane to fly somewhere.
Yeah,
not
true.
happening. I barely want to take him out of the house right now, just because, you know, there's stuff out there.
Yeah, I know. Boogeyman's out there.
Yeah.
In a lot of different forms.
Yeah.
And yeah, the boogeyman is real, but he is definitely out there.
Mm-hmm.
But back to the point of like the kids and the time flying, I've always thought, well, ever since I was at least semi-adult, that time flies by. I've always just noticed that. It's like, man, where'd the time go? But once you have kids, dude, it hits. Like it hits different. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
Because it seems like I was just thinking about this earlier today. I was out in the garage and just doing some house cleaning and some rearranging, and we finally started shifting all the kids' toys, their different toys that they've collected. We've collected it for the past 10 years, or well, 12 years, almost 13 for my girl. But we just have this massive amount of toys and didn't really get rid of much up until like more recently. Like we just now started shifting all that stuff out to the garage and to the shed to either give away or throw away probably. I doubt most of it's not good enough to like sell, you know. So if I can find somebody who needs toys or wants toys, I just give it away.
Right.
Like my niece that comes over sometimes, she goes shopping because she's still like 6 or something like that. So those toys are still relevant. But it just hit me. It's like my kids don't really play with toys anymore. My 10-year-old, he's more into the tech, you know, and my 12, almost 13-year-old, her last standout was like Barbies, you know, and she only if there's a younger kid around will she play with them with the Barbies and stuff, you know. So it's like the end of an era. And you look back on it and say, man, where did the time go? I kind of miss. It's kind of sad, and I was given some sage advice a long time ago to enjoy every single developmental period, right? Just enjoy it all, because they're not going to stay the same. They're going to grow. But there's a little bit of sadness, like, man, that's gone. You know?
Do you feel like growing up that's the way it felt? Like, I feel like the older I get, the more it seems like time goes by faster.
Yeah.
Did you feel that way when you were a kid, though? Like, maybe it's just because we had a different perspective back then. I don't know. It just felt like when you didn't have as many worries when you were younger, when you were a kid, you didn't have bills to pay and things to worry about. It didn't seem like time flew by that fast.
I agree, yes, with what you said.
Yeah.
But also you have to look at the different milestones that you look for as a kid. Like when you become aware that, it's going to be cool when I get to drive. So you're looking forward to turn 16, right? So looking forward to that, just I think that perceptually slows down time, you know, and then you're looking forward to being 18 because why not? You get to graduate high school, all that good stuff. Then, of course, you look forward to being 21. And I think it's right around that. After that, you're like, damn, what am I looking forward to now?
Yeah.
So you're looking forward to more circumstances that are going to happen, like the birth of a child or getting married or graduating college or, you know, things like that. So it's not really so much time based. It's just when you get those things done, when they're accomplished.
Yeah.
And so I think that has a lot to do with it because as a kid, no, time doesn't seem to fly by. Another thing is because you're trudging through the school year, right? And you're just waiting for the school year to be over with so you can have summer break.
Right.
And it just seems like it took forever to
But the
get
summer
through.
breaks didn't take very long, did they?
They didn't, right?
Yeah, true.
So it just depends on what milestones that you're looking forward to,
Yeah.
I think. That's the only way that I think we, in our own minds, we manipulate the flow of time.
Yeah.
At least the perception of it, you know?
Right. I mean, we've got people in our life that it's just go, go, go. They got like a big family that has, you know, it seems like there's a kid's birthday every other weekend and, you know, a family that everybody's close. So everybody goes to all the kids' birthdays and on top of friends' birthdays and all that kind of stuff and church and, you know, all these different things. It's like every weekend it's go, go, go. Like anytime you message them, be like, hey, you want to get together? They're like, from like 4 to 5 on Saturday.
Yeah.
That's all we got, you know? That's not how I grew up. And that gives me anxiety. Like to think that even on my days off, there's no downtime. It's just go, go, go. And then the next thing I know, I'm right back at work again. You know, that stuff gives me anxiety. I'm sure once my kid gets older that, you know, it's going to get a little more hectic, like that kind of stuff. But I just didn't grow up that way. You know, I was always, my weekends, I was maybe at a friend's house or a friend was here hanging out or something, but that was about it. You know, we weren't going all the time. And now to see people doing that, but there are also people who they're in the moment everywhere they are. So if they're at a kid's birthday party, they're, you know, in the moment. They're not worried about going back to work on Monday. They're not worried about the next thing that's happening. They're just here because this is what they're doing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I think that's important. And it's not the easiest thing for me to do. I'm always looking at my next move. I'm always looking at what's coming next. Do I need to have anxiety because this is coming? Do I need to be worrying about this? You know, those kinds of things. These people, you know, the people I'm talking about are just like, you know, we're here. We're doing this. We're supposed to be here. This is where we're supposed to be.
Right.
This is what we're doing. We'll face the next thing whenever we get to it. So
I think that's the key. I think that's the key to mitigate the anxiety that you could have, because what you just said was, should I have anxiety about this?
right.
Which, should you have anxiety, period?
Right.
Because, you know, honestly, some days or some weeks, some weekends, whatever, you're going to have a lot of stuff to do. And when you own a house and you've got kids and you've got other responsibilities, then those things pile up pretty quickly. Now, I have taken some time off here and there from, you know, when the grass needs cut or there's cleaning to do or something to do. I put it off, you know, because I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy this time because I don't get to do it very often, just to sit on this recliner and watch Netflix. You know, that just sounds like something that I am going to do for myself.
Right.
But I noticed that when I do that, I look back and, man, I wish I would have done that instead. I wish I'd have got that done because then it would have been out of the way.
Right.
Because for me, that's how anxiety builds up, not getting those things done, not getting those things accomplished.
Right. Well, I mean, I see, and I'm sure you've seen people like this too, but like, you know, you work with people and all of a sudden you see a guy, he took a week off, you know, just went, you know, took a vacation. All right, cool. And then he comes back and you're like, you know, what'd you do? Would you guys go on vacation? Did you go do this? He goes, no, I mowed the yard and I worked on the deck and, you know, I did this, that, and the other, just stuff around the house all week. And I was like, that's weird. but to me, it's weird because another thing, you know, we took like one vacation a year. That was that 1 week where you went to Texas or you went to do this, that, and the other. But it was that 1 week where you actually, you know, got to get away from the house, get away from work and everything and actually go do something. But that week was special. Like that was vacation week.
Yeah.
You know, and outside of that, it was just work and school. That was it. You know, so it's weird to just see somebody take a week of vacation and just to mow the yard and just to, you know, clean up around the house. But some people enjoy doing that. And you know, the things like that, cleaning up the house and mowing the yard and all that kind of stuff that some people hate, is actually relaxing for some people and just something they enjoy doing. They just can't get around to doing it because they got kids running around the house or, you know, stuff like that, or they're on overtime at work or something along those lines.
For me also, it's not just, I don't mind cutting the grass and working outside. It's like, it doesn't bother me. I like being out there and stuff, but it's not for the pure enjoyment that I would do that, because I have taken time off in order just to get a lot of stuff done. It makes the rest of my life so much easier because, like I said, that stuff piles up. And working, you know, all the hours throughout the week, having kids in school, all the other priorities that one has in life, and the other things that you just do, you know, whether it be podcasting, disc golf, in the gym, whatever the case, it's hard to fit everything in. And it feels really good when I can just take some time and just get that stuff done. It lowers my anxiety levels for the rest of my life,
Right.
until they pile up again, of course,
Of course.
which is bound to happen.
Yeah.
But if you can just kind of put these moments in time, these little chunks of time in your life where you can get that stuff done. For me, like when I can come home to a clean house and it looks nice and everything's polished, you know, it actually looks good, which we don't get to do that very often,
Right.
because the kids just come through like Tasmanian devils and wreck it anyway. But plus, you just don't have a lot of time.
Right.
And the same goes for the yard work. You know, I got me a chainsaw, by the way.
Nice.
I am officially like full out manhood. I've got a chainsaw and I'm gonna start cutting stuff down.
See, I got one for Christmas like 3-4 years ago, and I haven't even used it.
Never?
No, and
Wow.
it's not good because it's one of those things where it's like if my wife goes out in the shop and she just sees it sitting there on the floor, she's like, I bought that.
right?
Still hasn't been used. Can't believe he begged for that thing, and he still hasn't used it.
Dude, you should come over. I've got plenty of stuff to cut, so you should come over and we could just run dual chainsaws, just start cutting.
Dude,
yeah,
there would be so much testosterone going on.
I know, it'd be great.
awesome. But no, I'm actually in the same situation right now too, because I have 2 disc golf baskets sitting in the garage that I haven't used very much, and I'm just worried that before long she's going to start looking at that and being like, "Glad I paid for those." And they're just sitting in the garage. That's neat.
Right.
So I'm going to have to start at least putting in the garage or something.
You should. You should.
Gonna have to.
Get your 10, 15 footers down, like to where you're not missing, which you probably aren't 10, 15 feet much anyway.
Hey, by the way, did you see...
yes. The putting league?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for anybody, I don't know if anybody in this area that's listening, but Bullpen Sports Bar and Grill, I think is what it's called.
In Leadington?
In Ludington, they're doing... I don't know, are they doing it there?
I assume.
Or are they just sponsoring it or something? I'm not sure.
My understanding is that they are doing it in the building.
That's cool.
They must have enough space because it goes from... Well, go ahead and finish explaining what they're doing.
Well, I mean, it's a putting. It's basically like a league, but it's a putting league instead of actually playing, full on disc golf. It's putting, but I think it's only like a certain amount of putts a week, right?
Yeah.
And it's in different distances.
You get 5 putts.
Man.
You get one at 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30, I think. Something like that.
You know how good you would get in a short amount of time though if you're just practicing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I bet me and you, if we were just doing that, we'd shave off, 6 or 7 strokes instantly.
Yeah.
Just off of our disc golf game.
It's already like helped my game a lot because I have a basket at home and I use it quite a bit. Haven't lately because of the elbow. We might get to that, but yeah, it's helped me a ton because not just like practicing the putt, but really, really honing in on my form and the flip and just different things. The one thing I do got to work on more though is like I'm doing different elevations at the house. That's pretty easy, but I need to start working around some more obstacles because a lot of times your upshot lands you in a position to where you're shooting around something or underneath something, or you know what I'm saying.
Right.
There's something in the way.
Yeah.
And so I need to move it around to different spots just so I make sure it's like something's annoying the crap out of me and I've got to shoot around it.
Right.
But yeah, it definitely helps. It's helped my game quite a bit, although you wouldn't be able to tell. But because I need my short game to really pick up, some of my mid game, my long game too. So it's that league though is very interesting because it's the competition too, and so you're really going to put your all. I catch myself sometimes at the house like practicing, but I got to be careful because I'm just like too lackadaisical. You got to if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. So you want to make sure you stay focused on what you're doing,
right, and
correct any little things that need to be corrected. And not just be out there flipping them and not really paying attention to how when you are making them, when you're making 30 foot putts, you want to be able to make sure that you know how to replicate that.
Right, and then doing it so much that after a while it just becomes a habit. Like that exact form down to the finger placement is to a point where you've done it so much that it doesn't really take any thought to put yourself in exactly the spot you need to be to make that putt.
Right.
And then you can get a little bit lax, just because you're used to it now.
Yeah, I am notorious for overthinking. That's why I've always sucked at golf because through every swing, my brain it's my worst enemy. I mean, I couldn't do it. The focus, I don't know. It was just not for a game like that. Disc golf though, I've noticed, especially on putting, maybe all around, but I've noticed it more on putting because I don't know, because it's more exact, right? You're not just shooting for this big amount of space. Now you're shooting for this little cage,
right?
But I noticed that when I can just get up there and as long as I'm confident, like you're saying, that muscle memory is there. If I'm confident, I just don't think about it. I just aim it up and bam, let her fly.
Yeah.
And I make a lot more of my shots that way. I'm just the confidence and the automaticity of it is just on point as opposed to me sitting there thinking. But there are some variables though, like wind. Like, I'm shooting in a garage or something like that, you're not getting any of that wind factor. And when you get out there, dude, that one day I was at Mac not too long ago, it was the worst wind that I've played in, and the baskets were all the way in the long spots.
Dang.
Which that by itself on a couple of those, it just pisses me off from jump, right?
I mean, it can help you if you got a tailwind. but especially on those far ones. But
Yeah.
out there, it seems like it's never a tailwind. It's always crosswind or it's right at your face.
Yeah, the wind shifts depending on my shot,
Mm-hmm.
and it's always shifting in the opposite direction of what would be beneficial.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure how it works.
You just throw it and it goes behind you somehow. Like, what just happened?
Right, yeah. I'm no meteorologist or wind expert, but I know that's how it works because I've experienced it. But no, it's the wind really makes it, even with shorter putts. That's what amazes me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like sometimes the tailwind's not good
Mm-hmm.
when you're shooting at the basket and it's 15 feet away and a normal shot just takes off over the basket. It's like,
Yeah.
how did that even happen? It didn't
Right.
seem like that was even physically possible,
Mm-hmm.
but it does.
Yep.
Depending on the wind. So you got to be careful with that. But anyway, yeah, my elbow's really been giving me trouble. So I haven't been able to get out and play disc golf now. What, 2 weeks? When's the last time that I played? It was about 2 weeks ago.
So I haven't played since before he got here.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see what it's like. But then again, it might be okay because I'll get out there and like expect that it's not going to be great, and that's when I do a little better.
Yeah.
So I just expect that it's not going to be great, and then I'll get like halfway through and be like, dude, I'm doing pretty good, and then I'll do terrible.
Right.
That's how my game works.
Yeah, mine does too, to a large degree. But I think taking some time off is also good, though. Kind of like in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you take a little bit of time off, and then you get back out there with a fresh perspective. You know, you like you're saying, you kind of let go of some of the mental torture that you put yourself through, and you've been practicing for so long, and you expect that you're going to be better. And in my case, I'm not. You know, and so it tortures me sometimes.
Well, I mean, you're comparing disc golf to the gym, though, and that's kind of rough because when it comes to the gym, you got all the cookies that you're eating outside the gym when you're taking that time off versus me and you had a pretty long discussion in the gym yesterday. Luckily, we were in the gym having this discussion, not just like eating cookies, talking to each other at the house.
Yeah.
But that's been my biggest thing is the time off is great. And like I told you before, like my shirts are fitting a little tighter in the arms and stuff like that. Like I know that I've gotten good. I've healed well, and I've gotten not rest. What's the word I'm looking for?
Recovery?
Yeah, recovery. That's it. I've gotten good recovery over the past month or so, but my body's also telling me, dude, you gotta get back in there.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm down to like, one or two meals a day, and what I'm eating isn't great. You know, I gotta refocus, and I'm worried because I go back to work next week, which is fine. I'm ready to go back, but I'm just worried. Like I keep telling myself, things are going to get better when you go back to work because you get that routine back. You get, your schedule gets back to normal and stuff like that. I keep telling myself that, but I'm afraid that it's not going to be true. But I think it will. I think me and you've got kind of like a gym schedule worked out, and I think me and you are both but even before my kid came, like me and you had an idea of what this winter is going to look like for both of us,
Right?
Training wise, diet wise, and all that kind of stuff. So we may be filling out some hoodies over the winter, but it's going to be in a good way.
I think so. Yeah. I think so. And we also knew, though, what this break was going to look like, too, to an extent. We knew that it was going to be, our routine was going to be broken apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so we anticipated that and was okay with it. You know,
Right.
it didn't catch us by surprise because, I mean, this summer was pretty busy. You know, I went on 3 different trips, which some years I don't even go on any,
Right.
you know, but when I was able to go on 3 different trips this summer, you had a baby. And so we just knew that. And I had several different pretty big projects at work still ongoing, but they were really hitting all through the latter part of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
There was no way we were keeping that routine.
Right.
And we had come to terms with that. So taking that break in anticipation, though, that we're going to reestablish that routine coming up in the fall and then into the winter, I think we're really going to hit it. But on the note of eating cookies and stuff, that's just part of my problem is that when I'm working out, I can cheat a lot more, if you will. I don't have to watch my diet so much. I still should, but it doesn't affect me like as much, because my metabolism's up. I'm working off the calories. I'm just staying active, which I'm still pretty active, but not in the same way. But here lately, even though it seems like my diet is just I just went the opposite way in overdrive.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm eating a lot of snack cakes, zebra cakes. That's my jam.
Yeah.
And they've been my jam for a long time. But here lately, like, it's been my jam, right?
Yeah.
That's my stuff.
Hey, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I don't know why I just thought of this. Is a zebra cake basically a Christmas tree cake? Just it has a different, like the
Okay.
crumble deals on the top.
So it doesn't have the sprinkles. There's
The
no
zebra cake doesn't.
right.
It's got a little bit of the chocolate drizzle
Yeah,
type
it's just
on the
got
top,
like
right?
lines of chocolate drizzle.
But it's the same cake inside, right? And the whites, the white.
I think so.
Chocolate? Is that chocolate?
I don't think so. I think it's. I mean, it's not like what's that stuff called? The stuff you put on cakes that you
Like
don't.
frosting?
Well, it's not frosting. It's the other stuff that's more decorative.
Fondant?
Fondant.
Is that what it is?
I think so, because I was thinking fondue. I was like, it's not fondue. Fondue's like a cheesy type of stuff.
Yeah. Well, as soon as you said zebra cake, I was like, man, a Christmas tree cake would be good.
Here's the thing, though, with zebra cakes. I mean, I know there's no difference in like the actual flavor or anything like that, but they make zebra cake rolls now, and they hit different too.
Yeah.
Because it's the same. I believe it is the same amount of cake, maybe not, but it's close to. But it's compacted into this roll, this log. Looks like a Swiss cake roll, except it's a zebra cake. I'm telling you what, man, those things. I've got to be careful.
Yeah.
I've got to be careful. But I'm excited to get back in the gym like full force, given that this elbow thing corrects itself, man. And I have to assume it's tendonitis. I'm not going to go get it checked out unless I absolutely have to. I've had some elbow issues off and on, just like I do with my shoulder sometimes. When I work too hard in the gym, I can start to feel it.
Yeah.
But it tends to go away, right? And it only comes back when I'm working that hard. So I never really paid a whole lot of attention to it. Never really gave me any issues. This time's been different. Like this time, and I'm pretty sure I did it on the preacher curls that time. You remember that day, because I felt something that, ouch, that hurt. And so after that, though, I didn't slow down, and I'm notorious for that too.
Yeah.
Because I still think that I'm 20 years old, and my body says, no, you are not.
Yeah.
And this is one of those cases. And another main culprit, though, is disc golf. This repetitive motion, because I was taking it easy in the gym because we weren't in there. We had all this stuff going, but I was still out on the course quite a bit playing disc golf. And that, I believe, is really what exacerbated it. And then I went back to the gym again, did some arms, had an arm day, and that just did me in. I'm like, crap, man, I've got to, take it easy. I have to force myself to not put myself through that pain. I was waking up in the middle of the night and in the morning, and I could barely move my arm.
Really?
Like, I'm still having trouble. If I'm picking something up, like this can, I'm picking it up, I have trouble, gripping it.
Yeah.
It's affecting my grip. It's affecting
Wow.
my motion. It's pretty bad. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
But it's better right now because I'm resting it. But I can't not use it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the only thing that if you're not wanting to go to a doctor or anything like that, I wouldn't go to a regular doctor for it anyways, because all the doctor's going to do is try to give you a pain med, more than likely, and just say put ice on it and it'll get better. But that's what I would tell you to do too. And, you said you've been icing it, which is good, but keep an ice on it, and honestly, rest, recovery, ice, and then it wouldn't hurt to get into the gym and just do very light bicep curls, just enough to where you can slowly contract your bicep and get blood in that area. I mean, that's what blood does. It helps heal and helps your recovery, right?
Yeah.
So if you can slowly, to where you're not, hurting yourself, even if it's 10-pound dumbbells, get a little bit of a comfortable contraction in there and try to get some blood into that area a little bit. But that's about as good as you can do. I mean, people wear braces and all that kind of stuff all the time, but I don't know what it really. I guess people feel more comfortable with them sometimes, but I've never worn a brace for anything. I've never. It just seems to me like it holds it in one area.
Yeah.
And I guess if it's hurting that bad to where it needs to stay in one spot and heal, I get it that way, but there's just been nothing that I've had that I needed to do that.
Right.
The only thing that I've ever done is when I had tendonitis in my knees pretty bad, I would wear knee wraps when I would do leg press and stuff like that. But then it got to a point to where I couldn't even knee wraps didn't help me anymore. My knees just hurt so bad. So I actually had to go to Dr. Jeff Huck, and he has an ultrasound machine where he would do the ultrasound on it, and it actually decreased the swelling of my knees almost instantly. It's pretty good. So I think I mentioned that to you too. He does have that ultrasound machine, and it does do wonders. So it might be an option too. Don't even have to run through insurance if you don't want to. I'm sure you could probably go in and say, hey, I need this done. Here's some money. But
well, and I've been doing some research on just some physical therapy exercises for this condition.
Mm-hmm.
And so working on it, I've wanted to let it heal to some degree before I even started messing with it at all. You know, I'm still in the gym. I'm just not pushing like super heavy weights. I'm taking it easy when there's certain movements like, you know, the curls.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did the last time I really was like, oh, crap, this is a real deal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be able to get out of this one just by doing nothing.
Right.
Other than that, though, most of my movement's still pretty solid. That's the big one. But I'm going to take my own route and try to use some just basic physical therapy stuff that I find on my good friend Google's by his direction.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, my buddy Caleb Stegall, he also recommended the elbow wrap or the elbow brace for disc golf, and he referenced a couple of professionals that use that. I'm more curious about that than I am in wearing one for the gym. Mm-hmm. Because of all of the mechanics of throwing a disc golf, the disc, how it just kind of, you know, twists the elbow and all that movement, and it's repetitive. Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to research that and see if I can find a good brace to try out for that and see if it's effective. And who knows, maybe it'll actually improve my game.
Maybe.
It couldn't make it any worse, right? So,
well, if that's the case, you could pretty much use anything. I don't know if this is a good argument or not.
The one thing
you could use Swiss cake rolls if you wanted to. It would make your game.
Zebra cake rolls. I'll be willing to try. But the one thing, and this is stupid, it's silly. But the last time I played, I was by myself. I went to Engler, and yet again, I played my best game that I played out there. I will admit I gave myself one mulligan on hole 18, but that was
Cheater.
it. That was
Cheater.
it. But I admitted it. That's the thing. If you admit it, then it's not cheating anymore. It's just, you know, the whole game I gave myself one. Anyway, I made one of the longest putts that I've ever made, and it was to save par. And I told myself, like, this will really, like, bring up your game for the rest of the day if you make this. But the key is I put, you know, and I think you know this tactic that I have, but I put mint in my mouth. I take mints with me, and I put a mint in my mouth for putting now. It's a thing. And when I have a mint in my mouth, I don't know, I just hone in.
Why would I know of this technique?
Because I thought that I've had mints out there before.
Well, maybe, but I didn't think it was a thing. I thought your breath stunk. And
maybe that's how it started.
Does it just give your mind something else to think about while you're?
I think so. I think it just has a calming effect, you know. And it's just like a lot of sports players have little quips or little superstitions that they use, like they won't wash their socks until they, you know, lose a game or whatever. I stick a mint in my mouth, and it tends to align the planets for me. And my
thing is music. When I'm out there, I got big into. You know, especially like there for a long time we were lifting, there was this gap between when I got off of work and when you got off of work to meet at the gym. So I would normally go out and play disc golf, 9 or 18 holes between there, and then meet up at the gym with you. And I got to the point where I was just putting my headphones in while I was playing. And, you know, there was a couple of times where, you know, I'm like first 3 holes, I'm even, I'm, you know, at par. And then I realized it, and I'm like, oh crap, it's because I wasn't even thinking about what I was doing. I was just playing. I was just mainly paying attention to the music that was going on in my head, you know, and stuff, versus actually worried so much about the anxiety of making a putt and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess the music is my mint.
No, I get it. I get it. You got to find something to put you in your groove. Mm-hmm. And who would have thought it'd be a mint? It could be a lot of things, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, that just happens to be something that I use. I like the mint in my mouth anyway. And so, I don't know, it just brings me current in the moment. It makes me present.
You know what? I did the same thing kind of too with sunflower seeds. I got big into that for a minute while I was playing, and it helped for a little bit. And then I realized, I don't know if you chew sunflower seeds very often.
Not very often, but
it just becomes a constant thing in your mouth. Like you're just constantly popping one open and taking the seed down, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not one that I'm not a person that spits out the seed every time as soon as I get the sunflower out of it, right? I've seen some people who will have a patch in their mouth on this side, and then they'll chew it and then get the empty seed over to the other side, and then kind of spit that all out when they're done. Yeah. I can't do that. I got to be like, I get the sunflower seed out, I spit it out, right? That was getting into my drive, because I need to be able to spit that out as soon as I get the sunflower done. But it just becomes a habit of as soon as one's done, you're popping another one and popping another one. And I realized I was popping one right during my drive, and my mouth's trying to spit out a sunflower seed at the same time that I'm trying to concentrate on a throw, and it wasn't working very well. So I had to give up on it.
You bring up a crazy process, though. I got really good at being able to shell the seed, and then there were times where I couldn't spit right away. And so I would store them over on the other side and keep it. It ends up being messy.
Uh-huh.
But just the fact that you can even like shell it and then spit out the shell and eat the seed and then do the next one. It's like there's a process going on in there. I think that a lot of people don't realize how cool that really is.
Yeah.
You know, it takes a little bit of coordination with your tongue and your teeth and your cheeks.
Yeah, and
to
then
be able to do
those
that.
ones that piss you off really bad because just for the life of you can't get it to stick between your teeth good enough to break it to get the sunflower seed out, and you're just fighting it and fighting it and fighting it.
Yeah.
Those suck. Those piss me off.
Then after a while, they're so salty that because my mouth just gets dry. It's almost like eating Sour Patch Kids or something.
Mm-hmm.
Your mouth is raw on the inside.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, you need to stop.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I would not. And I would continue to torture myself with the sunflower seeds. But I don't eat them that often anymore.
It's like eating a big bowl of crunch berries. And, just the roof of your mouth is just going to be demolished, but you got to keep eating it.
You can't stop. You can't stop. I do still enjoy the shelled sunflower seeds, though. I'll get a bag of those. Those are really good for you. You got to be careful because they're pretty fatty, too. But they're good fat, and so you should eat seeds.
Yeah.
You just shouldn't eat a whole bag at once.
Yeah.
And that's where I've got to be careful.
No, I normally get through maybe like 2 mouthfuls of them before I'm like, all right, we're kind of done here.
Okay.
But yeah, I normally have a big thing of water with me too, though, so that does help in the scenario a little bit.
It does.
But you can't drink water while you have a mouthful of sunflower seeds. You have to like portion out how much you're going to put in your mouth before you think you're going to need water.
Agreed.
You can't just like shove it full because then you're going to want water halfway through, and you can't do that. Because then it's going to wash all the salt off of them, and then they're just gross.
Yeah. No, I agree. You don't want soggy, saltless
No.
sunflower seeds.
Oh, that sounds like a terrible brand.
Yeah. So anyway, a lot going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about what you know about the Joe Rogan experience right now. By the way, do you still listen to the podcast? No?
In all honesty, I haven't listened to one since he moved over to Spotify.
Really?
One, because I don't really listen to I don't have Spotify. It's never been my thing. But I know that Rogan's under fire right now. He's been under fire for a while, though. Pretty much ever since he moved over to Spotify. For one, because a lot of people think that he just sold out. But, I mean, dude, $100 million, who wouldn't?
Right.
But, especially with COVID and everything, he's been one of the people at the forefront, especially podcasting-wise. Everybody says that he's putting out misinformation and that he's trying to debunk, this, that, and the other. I don't know that he's ever intentionally tried to put out misinformation. And everybody, for some reason, I don't know if you've noticed this now, but a lot of people are like calling him out because he's like the question guy. Like he's just always asking questions. And I'm like, well, how do you freaking learn if you don't ask the questions?
Right.
And it sounds like I'm taking Rogan's side. I'm not really taking his side on anything because I don't know the science behind all this that we're going to get into. Mm-hmm. But I know that he's always been the question guy. He's always been a curious mind. He always wants to know these things, and he talks to people on both sides of most topics and most concepts to get different ideas. And then he takes his own thought from that, which is kind of what we talk about that people should be doing anyways. Don't listen to one side of a story. Don't listen to one side of this or that. Mm-hmm. Listen to varying sides and then take your own thought from that. I think he's always done a pretty good job of that. Now, as I said, I haven't listened to him since he's went over to Spotify, so I don't know if that's changed or not. But I know that I've seen a lot of names that he's had on there, and they are names that he's had on before in the past. Yeah. So I would think that he's still kind of doing that.
It's the same show. It's the same stuff. It always has been.
I mean, I know a lot of stuff has been censored or taken down, like different because Spotify has taken a lot of his episodes down, for different topics or stuff that I guess they didn't want to promote or something like that. I don't know if you've seen any of that
from the past or his more recent topics.
No, past.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, and that's another thing I haven't researched. I don't know what kind of hand Spotify has in it as far as who he can have on his show as guests and stuff like that. But I know he just had Alex Jones on a while back and stuff too. I would have thought if Spotify had an issue with anybody, it would be somebody like Alex Jones and let him do that. But I don't know what kind of, if Spotify has any hand in saying we stay away from this kind of topic or this kind of topic or something like that.
It doesn't appear to.
Okay.
I mean, literally, his show, from what I can see, is the same that it has been for the past at least 4, 5, 6 years.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I don't see any difference,
Yeah.
honestly. And he's still bringing up controversial topics.
Yeah.
And sometimes very controversial.
Yeah.
And so one thing I don't get, see, I'm a fan of the Joe Rogan show.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been for a long time.
Yeah.
So, but you've got a lot of haters out there.
Mm-hmm.
People who just hate and bash, and I don't know why, because he's there, because they troll.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're jealous. Maybe they just don't like him. Whatever. I don't care. And then you've got people who like deify him. They put him up on this pedestal. And they're like, Joe Rogan can do no wrong or whatever. But then you got people like me. It's like, I think he has a good show.
Mm-hmm.
It entertains me.
Mm-hmm.
It informs me. I don't take it for gospel. Just like with everything else, when someone tells me something on the media or whatever, or on social media, just in comments, things like that, I go in and do my own research if I care about it.
Yeah.
If I care enough to know for sure, like this is a thing, especially if I plan on like repeating this information. Now, do I always do that? Probably not. No. And is the information that I'm researching valid? Who knows? I kind of see what's out there in the ethos and try to put together my own conclusion as well as I can with what's the information that's available given to me. So he's just a show. I mean, he has a show that you can listen to, and if you enjoy it, that's good. If you don't enjoy it, you don't listen to it.
Right.
So that's kind of where I land. But
People don't look at things that easy though. It's not just it's not just black and white. It's got to be, oh, I hate him because, and then give reasons why you hate him. Then most of them aren't valid in the first place.
Yeah.
Or I absolutely love him and he can do no wrong, like you said.
yeah.
But anyway, so he's coming under fire now, and they're saying that since the beginning of COVID that he has said that you don't need a COVID shot or a vaccine and things like that. And I think that's another thing that was kind of taken out of context from what I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of like he says, if you're 21 years old and you come to me and say, should I get vaccinated? He looks at it from, this is a virus. Do you have a good immune system? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you eating right? Are you, exercising right and things like that? If you are, you're going to get over this virus. That was his thoughts. That's not how media portrays that. It's like he said that you should definitely not get a vaccination. You don't need it. You're not going to die. You're going to be fine. That's how they portray it. Mm-hmm. Of course, because it's the media. The biggest thing right now that everybody's taking off with is this ivermectin thing. So ivermectin is a what is it? It's a
antiparasitic.
Mm-hmm. That they do give to horses and cows and stuff like that for those types of things. Deworming. But there is a human consumption form of that in a tablet that he admitted that he took during this. People are not looking at that. They're not saying, oh, there is a human form of this. It's just like somebody Googles a picture of the ivermectin form that goes to horses and cows and then puts wording over it that says that Joe Rogan is taking this and that the poison, the calls to poison and all that other kind of stuff have tripled and quadrupled because
the poison control.
Yeah, people are taking this and stuff. That's where people are morons, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, if Joe Rogan said I took ivermectin and you didn't research that and you just went out and started taking any form that you could get a hold of, you're a moron.
Agreed.
Right?
Because
that's on you, dude.
They're going to feed stores and getting the paste.
Yeah.
Which is not like what you would get from your doctor.
Right.
Ivermectin, for better or for worse, I don't really have much of an opinion on it, but that's what's happening, though. They're completely stigmatizing. They're focusing on this one thing, and they're just blasting him for blasting and blasting. But ivermectin, to my understanding, it won a Nobel Peace Prize, or the doctor who invented it or something, back in 2015 for human use because they use it for river blindness in Africa, I believe, maybe Asia. But it's anti-parasitic, and so there's a lot of parasites over there that we don't necessarily have over here. And so they're giving it to these people, and it was like touted as a fantastic drug. Now, does that mean that it's necessarily appropriate for COVID? I don't know, but it's been talked about way before Joe Rogan started taking it. There's been a conversation about ivermectin for a year, and this whole Joe Rogan thing just happened. So it's just because they attached it to him, and they just been waylaying him with this crazy bashing of a celebrity is all it is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand, because COVID's not a parasite though.
That's
it's
right.
not a parasitic thing. So
I guess
I wonder. Me and you talked on the phone about this yesterday. Joe Rogan's not an idiot. Like he's smarter than the average guy, and he's not gonna just willy nilly take this if he doesn't have smart people putting this in his ear that it might be a good idea, or that there are proven studies out there to show that it can help against COVID. I don't think he's just gonna willy nilly take something, just for fun. It's just weird to me because it's not like COVID isn't a parasite. It's a virus. Not that ivermectin can't help against that. It's a different thing to me, which is weird.
I guess I don't know enough about that kind of thing to really dissect it much. I know that a parasite, lives in a host. So does a virus. It gets in a host and it feeds off that host. Now, a virus, I think, attaches actually to the cells and replicates, something like that maybe. But I shouldn't even talk because I'm going to say something stupid. I know I am.
Yeah.
Because I've read this information, but for me to repeat it, I'm just not going to go there. But I agree with you, though. I don't know why he made it public, because he's a public figure. And so it came out that he had COVID. And right then, people started laying into him.
Mm-hmm.
But this is happening. People are COVID shaming people big time.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not vaccinated, or if you are questioning about the vaccine or whatever, they're like, well, so and so, especially those who are like the anti-maskers. There's been several of them that have died, and some like conservative talk show hosts around the country, things like that. And the media is just showing them like, hey, look, this anti-masker ended up getting COVID and died.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like they say, see, we told you, this is what happens. They're just looking for reasons to like lambaste people.
And that's what drives me nuts, is that there's no basis on the other side of that to, like, you can say, okay, well, they weren't wearing a mask, so they died of COVID. How do you know that even if they were wearing a mask, they wouldn't have still had the same situation, right? You can't. So I don't think you need to be opening your mouth unless you can prove both sides of your scenario, and you can't.
No, there's no way to.
No, and I think we talked about it on the last episode with. It's the same thing with vaccination. There's a lot of people that say, well, I got COVID and it was really bad, and I'm so glad that I'm vaccinated because it would have been so much worse. There's a difference between saying would have been and could have been, because you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you've had COVID before and then got vaccinated and then you got it again and it wasn't as bad. There can be two scenarios there. One, the vaccination worked. You're not near as bad, or your body had it once before and it's like, oh, we've done this before. We know how to fight it a little better this time.
Yeah.
How do you know? Who's ever going to know? I don't know, unless there's like a lot of studies done, on people who are, I guess, willing to get COVID.
Yeah.
To be able to get the study done,
Right.
Unless we're going to use mice. We're going to use mice.
I don't know. I don't know. A mouse gets COVID. What is that like me getting COVID? That's just a pretty far, difference there, I guess. But and it leads back to the conversation we were having before. I'll go ahead and say it again about my social media experience. I very rarely engage in these conversations on social media. Mm-hmm. For one thing, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole with people. I don't really like arguing, and I'll be the first to admit, I don't know much about anything like that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I have my fields where I study, and I have a little bit more of an expertise. But about COVID and research and all that good stuff, I don't know. Everything's anecdotal for me, and I have intuition, and I do see a lot going on within like society, and I do study that. Anyway, there was this talk, and I'm not going to go through the whole conversation, but I made the point that I personally had COVID back in last October and late October, and I had a really easy run at it. Aside from my anxiety, I lost my taste and smell, which really sucked. But nowadays, if I would have had the vaccine and I had the same experience, they would have said, well, it's because of the vaccine. Or if I would have had the vaccine back then and had an easy run at it, I myself would have probably assumed that it was because of the vaccine. But there's no way to prove that. I know that I had an easy run at it, and it wasn't because of the vaccine. The vaccine wasn't out yet.
Mhm.
So now, but everybody is going to say, well, it's because of the vaccine. Well, a very smart guy and a very articulate guy fired back and said, yes, but you're one data point, and so the aggregate of the studies are talking about the decreased hospitalizations and deaths, and it happened after the vaccination had taken place for a lot of people. And so he was saying that you have to have a lot of numbers in order for that to be a case in point.
Mm-hmm.
And I got that, and I believe he was correct in that. Still doesn't take away from my anecdote, though. It still doesn't take away from the fact that there's this question about whether or not the vaccine or the mask or whatever would have helped me in that situation as
Right.
opposed to now, So we're going to say, yeah, it was because of the vaccine. Well, was it, though? I mean, maybe, probably, but
Right.
who knows? I just know that social media is the bigger virus than COVID.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the whole point to all of this. Like with the Joe Rogan thing or with whatever, it's this massive just like piling on from two different sides. And I don't even understand how there could be two different sides to a virus, but there are.
Mhm.
And it's political sides, and I see, and once again, if you've been listening to this show, let me preface though once again by saying this is not about whether or not you should get a vaccine. It has nothing to do with it.
Mhm.
What I'm talking about is just the misinformation, the disinformation, the mudslinging, the back and forth, the political sides, the playing on this team or that team. It's a full contact sport, and so you have people who just fall to anything the government says. Like they have faith in the government. The government says that you need to be quarantined. You need to take this vaccine. They just fall right in line. They have that just basic trust. Then you have the polar opposite of that, where anything the government says, people don't trust them. It's always a trap. It's always a trick. And it seems like there's a very sharp line between conservatives and liberals when it comes to that. I like the sound effect there.
That was neat.
That
What
really
was
came
that?
through to my point.
Oh,
Your
okay.
virus protection. Dude.
Oh, dude.
Crazy, right?
We've got to shut this down.
Speaking of, though, one more topic that is somewhat related. I mean, it's related, but somewhat related to our current path. Australia. You've been keeping up with Australia, any, and their
little bit.
lockdown situation.
A little bit, yeah.
Like, it is pretty crazy. It's like, I get it, okay? Let me preface once again by saying I get it. They're trying to control the virus. Okay. It's a slippery slope, and I wonder where the line is, right? Because they've been on lockdown to where if you are outside of your house, apparently they have helicopters that fly above, like in neighborhoods, telling you to get back in your house on a loudspeaker. If you leave, especially the country, but I'm wondering if even from state to state within Australia, which I believe is segregated into 5 states, but if you come back to Australia, you have to quarantine your house for, I believe, 14 days, and the cops come and check on you to make sure you are where you're supposed to be. Well, now they have this, they're putting in trial right now, and it's within the country. They say it's 4 when you leave abroad and come back, but right now they're trying it for when you're coming from either New Wales or Victoria, I believe are the 2 states, back down to southern Australia, which is another state, or South Australia, one of those. Anyway, you have to get an app on your phone, and that app has facial recognition and geolocation tracking, whatever. And so they're going to text you at different times. They're not going to tell you when, but you're going to get a text from the police, the government, whomever, and you have to respond to that text, and it's got to read your face and map your location to make sure you are where you're supposed to be,
Right.
quarantined. And if you don't answer the text, then a cop is going to come and knock on your door. Is that freaky, or is it just me?
Okay. Yes and no. It's freaky because you're basically putting people under house arrest and on parole for, like, the random checks and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But the other side of that is we're doing that already. Like, you still use face recognition on your phone. So, like, if there was a way that, I mean, there is, but if they wanted to, you don't really even have to do an app. Like, they could do that anyways, right? They can check your location where you're at on your phone. They can, most people use face recognition just to log into your phone, all those kinds of things. So, like, that's the only reason why it's not as weird to me is because you're on lockdown, but they could kind of lock you down without you even knowing about it if they really wanted to. You know what I mean?
They could, but a couple things here. A, you're right. Facial recognition, geolocation, that's already in place.
Okay, but
right?
but before you go too, this is the other thing that my my retort against the vaccination and the chips being in vaccinations too. Because if there's a microchip in there that's gonna, like, they could probably do better by just mapping your phone. Now I know you could not have a phone if you didn't want to, but if you're worried about the government because of a phone, you know, having a phone on you, then you're also probably not going to get the vaccination either, right?
Well, not necessarily, but
You don't think so?
Well, see, and I'm an aberration, right? I land in all different spots when it comes to this. Good luck trying to like pinpoint my political location at any given time.
Yeah.
Because I take every issue based on different perspectives. I'm not a team player at all. Same with like conspiracies. I'm not a chip guy. I'm not a chip in the vaccine kind of guy. But going back to the facial recognition, it comes back to that frog in the pot of water. Like if the water's already boiling, he's going to jump out of there. Mm-hmm. But you turn it on slowly and you boil him slowly, he doesn't notice the difference. We already have facial recognition. We already have these things in place. They can track our phones whenever. Now, apparently, according to our free society or the laws that we have in this nation, they have to have a warrant in order to be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, Edward Snowden brought out the fact that they were tracking this metadata due to the Patriot Act on all the citizens, at least a large number of them, right? Doesn't mean they were sitting there reading all of our text and stuff, but they were monitoring who you were texting, the number, and I think how long or something like that, whatever. It was metadata, but it was just this massive undertaking of the compiling of data, right? Anyway, these things are already taking place. And so when there's an issue, we don't ever want to waste a crisis, right? We don't ever let one go to waste. If there's an issue to grab power, chances are, according to history, that usually happens. And when they do grab power, they don't let it go.
Right.
Like, because the population wants to be safe. Okay, well, we're going to call on daddy government to make sure that they keep us safe. So how can we do that? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to make you get this app on your phone, right? So it's not just that they can, it's that they're telling you have to.
Right.
You know, it's not that they can listen to our phone conversations. They could. You know, they're the ones that have all the technology. I mean, they're in bed with tech or vice versa, whatever the case. But they can compel those big companies who also spend millions and millions of dollars to, you know, hold up these politicians, get them reelected, and so on and so forth to get their issues passed, the ones that they care about. But in Australia, they're compelling you to, like they're forcing you to. They're saying if you do this, then you have to. Otherwise, we're going to restrict your movement across the globe,
right?
And maybe even within your own country, right? So you've got to get this app. You've got, when we text you, you better within 15 minutes be responding with your face so that we can see where you're at to make sure you're where you're supposed to be. I don't know what the consequences are if someone, you know, if the cop does have to come and knock on your door. I don't know what the consequences are. I haven't heard anything about that.
The other thing is, too, about Australia is that there's a hell of a lot less people there, too. That's something they could not do. Like, could you imagine them trying to do something like that in, like, L.A. or in Houston or something like that? Some of these massive places in the U.S. I don't think they could do that here. It's because there's so many less people there.
Maybe.
I think.
Maybe. It's a good point, but to me, everything is, I shouldn't say everything, because that just sounds like I am just totally conspiracy theorist, which I'm not. Here's the thing. When it comes to my conspiracies, I see things as being like, I see the potential. Like that could happen, right? Which anything, I guess, is possible to some degree. But I also look at the intent and like the history of a government, right? Governments aren't really known to really like they don't tend to just worry about your freedoms. They don't tend to worry about your well-being. They worry more about the whole. They worry more about, you know, their power. They worry about those things. And so that's their history. And so the potential for their intent to be malicious, I think, is another thing that gets to me. Like I don't have a whole lot of trust in the governments, just about anywhere. I don't think that at the end of the day they're going to be looking out for your well-being. I think they're going to be looking out for what's best for the government or what's best for, you know, they mask it sometimes as better for society, but is it really? You know, is it something else? So that's the kind of rabbit holes I go down.
Yeah.
But once again, even the liberal magazine, The Atlantic, is where I got the information first about this facial recognition app that they have to. They're very liberal, and they even quoted it as, it's an op-ed, but which means it's opinion based. But they quote it as the most Orwellian thing so far that we've tried to use in order to, keep the virus from spreading anymore.
Right.
So that term just in and of itself is pretty telling that a lot of people it's getting their attention.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of people who are like, don't worry about this. For one thing, it's just in Australia. And for one thing, it's only for people who come back from abroad, and they're just trying to keep everybody safe. Yeah, I get that, but it's a slippery slope, right? At least in my opinion. Could they do it here, like in a city like LA? I see your point, but could they figure out a way to get it done? Is there something else they could do in order to use a similar type of apparatus in order to track people? Because that's what they're doing. They're not just tracking people, though. They're letting you know this is what you have to do. You have to let us track you. This is for your own good.
Yeah.
We're doing this for you. Now show me where you're at, or else I'm going to send the authorities there.
Right.
To make sure that you're where you're in it. Who knows what the consequences are? I don't know if you're not there.
Right.
So it's a slippery slope, my friend.
It is. And I know, you always go down you agree with a lot of things, but when it comes to just freedom in general and taking away any of your freedoms, that's normally where you draw your line. Even if you agree with a lot of the stuff that they're doing, if it's taking away some of your freedoms, you disagree with that. And that's where I think that has a lot to do with what you're saying. Like they could do these things without you knowing about it if they wanted to, but the fact that they're telling you that you have to, that now you're being forced to do something, and that's taking away freedom.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it makes sense. I get what you're saying. I don't know that they could, just because of the mass of people that we have here. I think that it would be, not that there's nothing they can do, just saying I think it would have to be more along the lines of they would do it without telling us, versus saying you have to do it and then see it and then have to deal with the massive uproar of people that would be against it.
But what's going to, and that's another good point, but let me get back to that premise in a minute. What's it going to take for them to be able to do it? Because they're going to find a way, one way or another, to be able to use technology for ultimate control. And the fact that they want to, at least we're assuming they do. In Australia, they do. I can't imagine Australia is the only country. But the fact that they have the intent that if they could, we're assuming here, but they couldn't because of the massive numbers. But the fact that they have the intent that if they could, they would. What does that say about, what's going to come down the road? Because they're going to probably find a way. Yeah. And it also, I think, is an important note. Maybe it means nothing to some people. Maybe it does to others. But Australia, their citizens don't carry guns neither. They don't have that freedom. And so I don't know if that goes hand in hand necessarily. It sounds a little more like China to me. That's something that China would do, and not a free nation to use apps on your phone to make sure that you're where you're supposed to be and have police checkups and things like that. It sounds like state control, and it's state control based off of something that it was, quote unquote, a natural pandemic. It's coronavirus has been around for a long time. I'm not saying it was released on purpose, but there's an argument whether or not it came from the wet markets over in China, or whether or not it came out of the lab in Wuhan. And there's an argument about that too, and that's also politicized, which is crazy. We don't know. You're just taking sides when you say that there's no way it come from Wuhan. You have no freaking clue. Not as just a normal everyday citizen. Somebody probably knows out there.
But you're saying you don't know if it goes hand in hand with like not having guns. Also, are you saying that the government it's easier for the government to be able to force people to do that because they don't have guns? Like there's no retaliation in that way?
And it's before that, though. And this is just my opinion, of course. But it's a little deeper than the fact that, if they have guns, then you can shoot back. To me, it's more of a sense of freedom. It's more of almost a demoralization of a society. A society that can't fend for itself, right?
So basically a society that already has less freedoms than we do, so they're more likely to not cause an uproar about this because they're kind of used to it already?
And they're more likely to submit.
Yeah.
Because in Australia, my understanding is that it wasn't like the government had to come take their guns. basically the citizens just gave them up. It's like, hey, we don't need these things, man. And yeah, they don't have like as much of the gun violence, of course, right? They're a much easier to control part of the world too, because like you said, it's it's a smaller population. It's kind of isolated down there in the middle of nowhere. So it's easier to manage all the travel, and from abroad and then to Australia, or out of Australia. But it just seems like that if you can convince a society or force them that they don't need to be able to defend themselves, and then if you start regulating the way that they grow their foods and just a lot of different things, then they have complete dependence on the government. And when they do have that much dependence on the government, obviously the government's going to be able to use that to tell you exactly what you can and can't do, like to a larger scale, right? Yeah. So I think massive numbers in the U.S. also is coupled with the fact that we have enough people to like fire back, proverbially, not literally, at when they feel like their freedoms are being infringed upon.
Gotcha.
Now, once again, I don't, the vaccine's a personal choice. Wearing a mask, I don't see anything, to people who really rail about wearing a mask out there. I think they're taking it a little too far. If a business wants you to wear a mask. Who cares? It's just a face covering. And I see that they're going a step further than me about, your independence and whether or not you should let somebody tell you what to do. But a private business, here's another thing too. One more thing, and I'll shut up.
Good.
Florida also is now, because this is on the flip side, Florida's got a very Republican governor, and he's firing back, and Florida's in tough shape right now with coronavirus, with COVID. He is finding businesses who say that you have to have a vaccine in order to come into their business.
Yeah.
Now, that's just to show you where I land to some degree. That's not right either.
No.
Because businesses are private, right? If it's like the state of Florida, like their public buildings or whatever, their state-run buildings, that's one thing. He's got a little more say over that. He does have say over it, I guess. But like private businesses are private businesses. You can't tell them what they can and can't do. If they don't want people coming in without a vaccine, without a mask, it's wrong for the government to do that.
How is it okay that I'm a private business and I can put a sign on my door that says no shoes, no shirt, no service, but I can't put you have to have a vaccine?
Right.
I think it's your choice, and I think you're an asshole if you're going to walk up to a business and it says you need to be vaccinated, instead of just walking away and going to another business to eat, that's fine with that.
Right.
You have to have your chicken wings right now from that place because you love them so much that you're going to be pissed off that you have to have a vaccination.
Right.
That's on you. That's on the consumer.
Yeah.
And the thing is that if you look at it, that business owner is taking a risk that they're going to lose your business permanently. Mm-hmm. And if that's the risk they're taking, and let that be on them. Let that be on them.
Yeah, let them market.
But they think that only having vaccinated people in their establishment is safer for everybody, and people feel more comfortable being there if they're unvaccinated. Mm-hmm. Let that be. But you have to have your food right now from there because you love it so much that that's on the consumer. That's on you.
Call DoorDash.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have them bring it to you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so it works both ways. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm saying. But people don't see it that way. And the reason why he's doing that is because the virus, the vaccine, the masks, whatever is all politicized, man. Not that there's not a real virus out there. There obviously is. Mm-hmm. I know someone in my family by marriage that just passed away. Another person, it's real. It's out there. But everything is so politicized that you can't hardly see the forest from the trees.
Now, let me ask you this. So I've seen that this, you said it's the governor, right?
Yes.
Okay, I've seen that the governor.
DeSantos.
Yeah, I've seen that the governor's doing this.
Dos Santos, something like that.
How is he portraying it though? Like, I know he's saying that if you're a business and you're requiring people to be vaccinated, that they're going to fine you. But how is he saying that? Like, what's the reasoning behind him saying that? Like, you're saying it's so politicized right now. Mm-hmm. Is that what he's saying? Is he saying that it's not as bad as it actually, saying it's not as bad as the media is saying that it is?
Yeah.
That's his reasoning for doing this?
So I got to be honest, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
It might be kind of a drive-by topic for me and for you to talk about because I don't really have a whole wealth of information about what's going on. But I just know that it was one of the I ran across the article and saw it. It was actually in one of the sites I follow. It's called Being Libertarian, and I've kind of followed the argument on there, and I agreed with the argument that look, this is private business, man. You're either for rights all around or you're not.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, something, I don't know if we talked about it on the last episode or not. Did we talk on the last episode about venue, like concert venues and stuff doing this now?
I think so. I
Did we?
believe so.
So I mean, it's the same concept.
Right.
If St. Louis, had a governor who wanted to come in and say, well, we're going to fine these music venues because they're requiring people to be vaccinated or show a COVID, a negative COVID test over the past couple of days or whatever to go to a show, I still think that's on the business.
Yeah.
The business chooses. They think that people are going to be safer if they prove that they don't have COVID or they've been vaccinated, one or the other. They think the people that are in that establishment are going to be safer.
Right.
I think that's on the business. If they lose people permanently, which I don't think a venue is going to lose people permanently. If the right band comes through that they love, they're still going to go there later on. But if they do lose people permanently, that's on them. They chose to do that. But in the short term, to me, seems like the better route to go, honestly. I mean, it sucks, because just because you aren't vaccinated and because you haven't shown a negative COVID test in the past couple of days doesn't mean you're not perfectly healthy and that you're not going to be able to walk in there and not pass anything to anybody.
Right.
That's not what that means. But,
And just because you're vaccinated doesn't mean that you don't have COVID. You're not going to spread it to somebody else.
Exactly.
That's the thing, That's why the vaccination is such and everybody individually should really consider whether or not they should be vaccinated. Really, really, and a lot of people already have, obviously. But I mean, if you're not vaccinated yet, you should really, really consider it. For you and your family, and that's where the choice should lie. Because as a society, I think the biggest argument is that the hospitals and the ICUs become overwhelmed. And so people who have non-COVID emergencies can't get in. If you have a heart attack, you got to try to get into the hospital when it's full of COVID patients who are, I guess for the most part, according to the numbers, unvaccinated, which that makes sense on a societal level. But just at the level of a concert venue, I still agree that it's their business, their choice. But on the level of that, you're going to go and be vaccinated with other vaccinated people, not knowing whether or not you're carrying COVID or not. And can still spread it. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense on that level to me, But I still stand by the rights part of it.
Yeah, on the larger scale, it makes sense that if everybody's vaccinated, the numbers go down. Like that's just like to me that does make sense. But you're not going to get everybody to get vaccinated, and the fact that I can get vaccinated but I can still get COVID. Okay, if I get COVID, it may not be as bad for me this time because I am vaccinated. But if you're not vaccinated, I could still give it to you. And that's not going to change. Just because it doesn't do as much for, as bad to me doesn't mean it's not going to do bad for you.
Right.
It could kill you. It's just like before the vaccinations came out, people were getting it and not even know they had it. But they are around people that they can give it to and it can kill them overnight.
Right.
It's just, you can't really win for losing. It just makes you feel like if you get vaccinated, you're only helping yourself. You're not really saving other people, right? And then when it comes to like a music venue, okay, only vaccinated people can be here. Okay, but still, people could still have it here. That doesn't mean that, I don't know.
Yeah.
I like, in my opinion, I almost think that as far as that sense goes, the people who are proving that they had a negative COVID test I would want more in here than just because they're vaccinated. You know what I'm saying? Because at least you proved that in the last 2 days you didn't have COVID.
Right.
Now that doesn't mean you couldn't have it now. I mean, if you had it 2 or 3 days ago, or the swab 2 or 3 days ago, and you didn't have it, doesn't mean you couldn't have been around somebody yesterday and now you have it and you could give it to everybody in here. But it still shows that you were negative for a virus, not that you were vaccinated for something that you could still have and still give to somebody else.
Right.
So it's a very slippery slope.
Yeah.
And I think you just have to look at all aspects. And, as far as the wearing a mask thing, you're generally just in that sense, you're saving other people from you. You're not saving yourself from other people, and I've had this argument a couple of times about, my having a kid and stuff, they're like, well, were you wearing your mask when you went to Walmart? Or whatever, which I haven't been to Walmart, but I've been in this scenario where, like, were you, wearing your mask? No. Okay, you probably should be because you're going to bring that home to your kid. Me wearing a mask doesn't keep me from getting it. It keeps other people from getting it from me. So as long as the way I look at it is as long as I'm not like in direct contact with anybody and I keep my distance from most people.
Mm-hmm.
And even if the people that were around me were wearing masks, then I should be good, right? Technically. So, because it's all about the droplets. It's all about people breathing on you and stuff like that. So as long as I'm keeping my distance from people, me wearing a mask is just saving them from me, not saving me from them. So that's the argument that I give there.
Yeah.
Although I do wear my mask most places now, just because it just makes me feel more comfortable.
Yeah, I think it makes most people feel more comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that is a perfectly fine response to a pandemic.
Yeah.
Is wearing your mask around people. Is it weird? And not really so much anymore, especially since I work in healthcare. I'm in a mask more than I'm not, at least as much.
Yeah.
But who cares? A mask's a mask. I've often taken the position that even if I didn't feel like wearing it, if everybody else feels more comfortable, then I can give that. It's not invasive. It's not like it's anything that's going to hurt me or I have long-term effects for or anything.
The biggest thing for us is that we live in a smaller area,
Mm-hmm.
and as well as I do that a lot of places you're going to get the look of people being pissed off because you're wearing a mask versus not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. We went into a restaurant a couple of nights ago just to pick up food and leave. And we both walked in with a mask on and nobody else that was in there did. And you could tell they were just looking at us like, why in the hell are they wearing a mask?
Mm-hmm.
If you were really looking at this, all I'm doing is fucking helping you. If I have it right now, I'm saving you from me breathing on you or getting anything on you.
Mm-hmm.
So if nothing else, give me respect. Don't look at me like, what the fuck is this guy wearing a mask for? This is stupid.
Yeah.
That's where ignorance comes in.
Yeah, we do live in a rural area where I guess we got a lot of rebels, a lot of people that push back. We've got very low vaccination numbers in this part of the state, and that kind of comes with the territory, I guess, of just, I don't know. But we are more spread out too, and so I feel like cities are more vulnerable to viruses and things like that because they're so much closer in proximity to each other all the time. There's not as much room to stretch out as what we have out here.
Right.
And so I believe, though, on that note, that people should just leave other people alone. It's like if somebody wants to wear a mask, then fine.
Right, and that's the biggest thing. Like, I don't care. Like, if you don't wear, I'm actually fine with going into a place because I can keep distance from people. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
I'm fine walking into a place and nobody wearing a mask there.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're keeping your distance from me and not like purposely, trying to force yourself in my area, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But don't demean me because I'm deciding to wear a mask.
Right.
That's my biggest thing. Don't look at me like I'm stupid because I'm wearing a mask because you're anti-mask
Mm-hmm.
when it's not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
So.
And it goes both ways. And the logic's a little bit different. I'll give you that. But people who, don't wear a mask and walk into a place where a majority are wearing masks, they're also frowned upon. They're looked at.
Yeah.
Now, granted, there's more of the, I guess the other side of things there where, they feel like that person should be wearing a mask because they could affect others around them.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're wearing a mask, it's not really affecting anybody else. They should just mind their own business.
Right.
I don't think there's any chance whatsoever that this isn't going to just keep, like, people are just going to keep showing their ass through all of this. I mean, this is just society now, I guess. And we can't just like leave other people alone or just take, their best interests at heart or just their preferences, whatever. We have to try and project and being general here, but we have to try to project our perspective and our morals and the way that we feel like things should be on everybody else, or else they are the enemy and they're we have our side and they have their side and we're going to fire off on each other. But
the scary thing is what you just said is like, that's how things are now. It's like,
mm-hmm.
When does this end is the question now. Like, not when does this end? It's like, does this end? And when we're not worried about COVID anymore, do masks just go away? Are we not talking about people being vaccinated and unvaccinated anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Has it just become like a flu shot? If you want to get it, you can. You don't have to, kind of thing. Or, what does this look like? Because they're already, the Delta variant of this is out and, filling up hospitals again and stuff like that. And different sources are going to tell you that you need to get a booster shot to cover that one, or, that some people are saying that it doesn't matter because the Delta variant isn't affected by the shot you've already had and stuff like that. What happens now? Like, how do we, because they're saying now there's another one in, was it China or something?
South Africa.
South Africa, yeah. There's another variant out there that hasn't made it here yet, but it's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I made the mention to you yesterday. It's like, it seems like in a lot of other countries, there's always been that, right? There's always like a virus that's out there. There's always a lot harsher things out there than there is here. It seems like, right?
In certain parts of the world, especially Africa and Asia tend to have the worst of like natural occurrences of like things like Ebola, or it seems like SARS in the original SARS, or I don't know if it's the original, but the one that I originally remember hearing about, SARS, and there was another one too that come out of Asia. Mm-hmm. So they just have a natural habitat there, I guess, to grow, and to affect people. Yeah,
but I mean, it just seems like, because COVID is the thing right now, that's why we're hearing so much about it. But if it was something else, we probably wouldn't, right? And it could be something that's worse than what COVID is, but just because COVID's the thing right now, that's what we're hearing so much about.
Yeah.
So totally. I don't know. I just wonder what things look like in a year from now.
Man, I hope they get better. Well, one more note on the private sector, like restrictions and whatnot. Joe Rogan talking the other day, and this is interesting, right? This is another layer to the onion. He said that now some of the venues, I think New York, I could be wrong, but somewhere over in the eastern part of the country, some of the venues that he already sold tickets to, they're requiring vaccination status in order to get in. And he's telling those people, look, if you want, you can get your money back for those shows from me, because he either way, he's not going to say one way or the other, you have to be vaccinated. But the fact that they're forcing you to show your card, and if you're one of those anti-vax people, then he's not, he's saying you can get your money back from it, right? That's also his right to do that, because he's a private person and it's his comedy show. The venues are hosting it, so it's their right to require vaccination status. But it's his right to say they can get their money back, right?
Yep.
It's just another layer to the onion. But that's the way, in my opinion, it should be, right? Because everybody has their own right to do what they feel like is right.
Well, these venues in St. Louis are doing the same thing. We were supposed to go to the Story of the Year and Fivefold show at Del Mar Hall. Or Red Flag. And Red Flag jumped on the bandwagon of you need to show a vaccination card or show a negative COVID test within the last 3 days. I don't know I know that was a sold out show. I don't know what the numbers are as far as who got refunds and who didn't go to the show. I think it was still a pretty good show.
So they did offer refunds if you didn't want to, really?
Yep. And I was wondering that leading up to it, because you just can't do that. Like you can't. I mean, you can, I guess, but you can't. You can't just.
You shouldn't.
You can't just 2 weeks before a show that you paid money to go to. You can't tell people that if you don't come, you just lose your money to something you didn't go to because they tried to force you to get a vaccine. Because then it places it on the venue to force you to get a vaccine or lose your money. So so that gets rough.
Yeah.
And it's but the same concept with Joe Rogan. Like, Joe Rogan has the right to refund tickets, and I think that was a smart move.
I do too.
I really do.
Not even based on the principle whether or not you feel like people should be vaxxed or not. It has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I think with a lot of things, like even like with Australia or whatever the case may be, no matter if you feel like the vax is good for you and your family, that should be first. You feel like the vax is good for society, that's okay to have an opinion about that. But I think there has to be some pushback when it comes to the rules and who's setting these rules and the kind of restrictions, and if they're stepping on our rights, I think you got to take a look at that and not just blindly like go along with whatever the government or whoever says. I think it's important that you look at that and not let your fear of the virus to just let you give up on everything else that's important.
Right.
So the world's crazy.
The world is definitely crazy.
So I'm just glad I have my little piece of it, and I pretty much stick to myself.
Yeah, I think that's the best route to go.
Yeah.
Because if not, you're going to get stuck in the world.
Yeah.
It's not a cool place to be.
I don't want to be there. All right, man.
All right.